This is why it's better to have one friend that you hang out with regularly instead of having a big group of friends. And trust me, you're going to want to listen to this story time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was kind of going through an identity crisis, and low-key still am. I went to a predominantly white school for the majority of my life, so let's just say I was extremely whitewashed. It was one of those times in my life where if a white person said the N-word around me, I would just laugh. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be like everybody else, and I seeked validation. Sophomore year was really when I started to become who I am today. I wanted to learn way more about my culture and my background, so I started becoming friends with people from other schools that are more diverse. Eventually, I met this group of girls, and I thought these girls were going to be the sweetest girls I would ever meet. Now, this friend group was serving flavor. I'm talking diverse to the T. One night, we decided that we were going to spend the night at one of the girls' houses. Let's call this girl Sally. I kept getting lost on the way to Sally's house, and I thought it was because I didn't know the area that well. Keep in mind, that's what I thought was the reason. I get there and we watch like 4 or 5 movies before I end up falling asleep. And when I wake up, I was in a room full of grown-ass men staring at me. Storytime part 2 of why it's better to have one loyal friend instead of a big group of friends. I forgot to mention in part 1 that when I arrived, the men were already there. Mind you, we were in sophomore year. These men looked like they were in college. So I was already a little thrown off, but I trusted it because I was with my friend. When I wake up, these men are like staring at me. But they try to look away really fast, but I could tell that they were staring at me. I start thinking the worst of the worst. I try to think of any possible way that I could get out of there, whether it was physically or mentally. So I pretend to fall asleep just to escape the reality of it. But then one of the men at the bottom of the bed starts rubbing my feet. I immediately kick my leg so I can get his hands off. Now I'm thinking he's gonna be mad and I'm gonna get fucking attacked. So I try to make small talk to loosen the tension. So I look at the guys and I'm like, hey, do you know where the girls went? One of them looks at me and says, oh, they went home. So I'm like, I thought this was Sally's house. And they say nothing. So at this point, I think I'm being set up. I try my best to not make it seem like I'm suspicious of them. I casually act like I need to pee. Walk into the bathroom and I see a window. Automatically something clicks in my mind, get the fuck out of there. Making part 3 right now. Part 3 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of hanging out with a big group of friends. So I go into the bathroom and there's a window. I'm thinking to myself, I would be so dumb. I would be so extremely incredibly stupid to go back into that room full of grown ass men that I've never met before, instead of making my escape through that window right here, right now. So I trusted my gut and I got the fuck out of there. Mind you, I'm in my PJs right now. No shoes, no socks. I'm making my great escape. Call me Pablo Escobar. While I was doing all of it, I was in disbelief. Like, I cannot believe that I'm escaping, like, right now. Like, this is actually insane. Like, I did what I believed was right at the moment. And honestly, that decision might be the reason why I'm alive right now. So I make a run for it. I immediately run to the front of the neighborhood. I hide behind some trees and then I call my sister. I call my sister instead of my parents because my mom was the one who drove me there. And if she knew that something bad happened, she wouldn't have let me go out again. I'm frantically explaining everything on the phone to my sister. She literally speeds to come get me. When she gets there, I immediately hop in her car and we get the fuck out of there. On our way home, I get a text from Sally. Last part is part 4. I'm making that right now. Part 4 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of having a big group of friends. So I'm on my way home and I get a text from Sally. Hey girl, where are you? We went to the gas station to get some milkshakes. You could have came with, but you were already asleep. I didn't even respond. I just blocked all of them because I know damn well that they were not getting milkshakes. Because 1, why didn't they wake me up to get milkshakes? Because I wasn't the first person to fall asleep. I'd never fall asleep first at somebody's house with a big group of people. I saw somebody else who looked like they were sleeping, so I thought that I was good to fall asleep too. 2, why were all those grown ass men there? Go nobody told me that they were going to be there. Like I said, we were sophomores. These men were in college. Maybe even graduated from college. They were grown. 3, why would she lie about it being her house? 4, why did the boy say she went home? And remember when I said I kept getting lost because I didn't know the area? Once I went back to look through the messages that I had with those girls to see if there was anything fishy going on, I noticed that they were all sending me different addresses. Either one number would be off or a letter would be off. They definitely were planning something because they were trying to get me there late. I haven't seen or talked to those girls since then. This is why you shouldn't let just anybody around your kids. Wear a mask while you watch this story time. I promise you're gonna want to. So when I was around 15 years old, I started doing really bad in school. My parents were really poor and my dream was to go to college, so I needed to work my ass off so I could get a scholarship. But with how my grades were looking, it did not seem like I was gonna get one. My school offered after school tutoring classes, so I started taking them. Just in case I didn't get that scholarship, my parents started working late hours so they could pay for my college. They also hired a part-time babysitter / housekeeper. Mind you, my parents worked all day until super late at night. Our job was to arrive after we all left to clean up the messes that we didn't have time to clean up in the morning or the night before. Then she was supposed to pick me up from my tutoring classes, stay at the house and watch me until my bedtime, which was about 9 p.m. Then she was supposed to leave. But one day we were sitting at the kitchen table eating breakfast and we all catch a drift of this terrible smell. My dad finds out that the smell is coming from the basement. As soon as he opened the door, the smell just hit you in the face. We all go down there to check where the smell's coming from. We see a pile of human feces. Laying next to it is my babysitter. Part 2 of why you should never let just anybody around your kids. So we go to check out the smell in the basement, and there my babysitter is, laying next to a pile of her own shit. My parents wake her up and everyone's covering their mouth and nose with our shirt. I go upstairs because the smell. I let my parents deal with that shit. Literally. I hear my dad yelling at her and telling her to get out. She explains that she used to be a full-time nanny and she has nowhere else to go because they kicked her out. If she was shitting on the floor, who the fuck wouldn't kick her out? She says she did that because she gets really bad anxiety at night and can't go upstairs or we would hear her and wake up. Because you have anxiety does not give you the right to shit on the floor. I have anxiety. Do you see me shitting on the floor? So my parents kick her out anyways, like any reasonable person would. And we thought that was the last that we were gonna see of her. But one night at like 2 a.m. in the morning, I hear a tapping on my window. So I wake up and there's my babysitter staring at me through my window. She looks sad and she like motions for me to let her in. I'm looking at her like, the fuck no? And so that sadness quickly turns to anger and she starts banging on my window. Part 3 of why you shouldn't let just anybody around your kids. Like I said, there my stalker ass babysitter is banging on my window at 2 a.m. in the morning. And so I quickly go to get my parents because what if she breaks that shit and breaks in? Once I leave my room, I hear the banging stop, but I still go to tell my parents what just happened. My dad calls the police and they check around the area and she's nowhere to be found. The smell goes away, we don't see her anymore, so we think everything's good now. But one day my mom texts me and tells me that she left me a tray of cookies on the dining table for when I get back from tutoring. Well, I didn't see any cookies or a tray. When my mom gets home, she wakes me up and asks me where I put the tray. I told her that I didn't even see the tray of cookies. So my mom tries looking for the tray because she needs it for when she cooks. She never finds it. Mind you, my family like never goes to our basement. But one day my dad needs some tools to help fix his buddy's car. He also notices that the tray we were looking for is in the basement. We're all freaked out at this point because
time of how I caught my dad and my stepdad sleeping together. So a little background information, my mom and my real dad got a divorce when I was around 4. So like the typical, on the weekdays I'd be at my mom and on the weekends I'd be at my dad's. Then when I was around age 6, my mom married my stepdad. And since they got married at such a young age, I called my stepdad dad and my real dad dad. This story ends up with a lot of confusion and chaos, so just get ready for that. So everything started to get a little weird when my stepdad went to go drop me off at my dad's house one day. My stepdad actually went into my dad's house and they talked for about like 5 hours. You see, I went to sleep and then the next morning my stepdad and my dad were both making me breakfast. And then I overheard my stepdad on the phone with my mom saying that he had an overnight shift. So I didn't say anything because every time I tell my mom something, she ends up believing my stepdad anyways. Because I mean, my stepdad's always right? Anyways, the next time that he dropped me off, my stepdad ended up staying again. Then I ended up walking into my dad's room seeing both of their pants off. I'm running out of time like for part 2. Part 2 of how I caught my dad and my stepdad sleeping together. Continuing on with the story, I had to ask my dad a question, so I walk into his room and I see my dad and my stepdad's pants off. One was laying down, the other was... You guys get the point. My dad quickly jumps off the bed and he jumps up so fast that he falls off the bed and he goes, honey, it's not what it looks like. And then my stepdad said, get out. So I thought it was funny, so I took a picture and I sent it to my mom because I knew she wouldn't believe me if I didn't have proof. And then she went crazy and tried to kill both of them because, he cheated on her. Then she ended up in like a mental hospital. They declared her crazy or something. So I don't see her anymore. And now I have 2 gay dads, and let me tell you, it's probably the best thing in the world. So basically, to sum it up, my stepdad cheated on my mom with my dad, and then my mom went crazy trying to kill my stepdad and my dad. Then she ended up in a mental hospital, so now I don't see her anymore. And yeah, I have 2 dads now. Now they got married, and yeah, I'm pretty happy. Even though she's crazy, I kind of miss my mom.